We are TOSA Sustainability Services, a startup here, with a mission to empower companies to make the best sustainable and ESG decisions. We are a team of 4 members here. Myself, I am Marwa Hanouf. I am a founder, director, and CEO in TOSA, and I'm also a postdoctoral fellow at University of Calgary in Alberta, Canada. I'm joined here with Alejandro Padilla Rivera, who's also a founder, director, and CTO and in TOSA and a postdoctoral fellow at University of Calgary. I'm joined also with Getachew Assefa, who is the founder, director, and advisor in TOSA and a professor at University of Calgary. And our 4th team member is Ian Gates, who is the founder, director, and advisor also in TOSA and a professor at University of Calgary. As a team, we do combine different years of experience working on different areas in relation to social lifecycle assessment, lifecycle sustainability assessment, lifecycle assessment, environmental, social, and governance assessment, sustainable energy technology systems, and technology development. As a startup, we are originated from University of Calgary in Alberta, Canada, and we have been formed in Calgary in early 2022. We do provide an intuitive computer-based sustainability and ESG plus software tool that evaluates the whole sustainability performance of any product, service, and corporate operations based on a standardized lifecycle assessment method. As a startup, we do not offer only software licenses, but we do offer also other services, including consultancy services, courses, training sessions, webinars on different areas from our expertise on lifecycle assessment, lifecycle sustainability assessment, social lifecycle assessment, ESG, and circular economy. And recently, our startup has launched and announced a series of free sustainability and lifecycle assessment webinars that are open for everyone, including academics, business leaders, decision makers, and policymakers. These webinars are going to cover a wide range of topics from triple bottom line thinking to lifecycle assessment, LCSA, and SLCA, which is the social lifecycle assessment. Our first webinar has covered the lifecycle thinking concept and its importance, and today's we're going to cover the topic of this linkage between SDGs and lifecycle sustainability assessment. Each webinar is going to start by a presentation by our TOSA team for around 40 minutes, and followed by a Q&A section where you are encouraged to as well ask your questions. Each webinar is going to be recorded also and will be available to you to watch later. So we're going to send you the link of the recording of the webinar later on in a follow-up email for you to watch later if you would like. And before I start with the agenda of today's webinar, I would like to encourage everyone during the presentation, if you have any question, please feel free to put it in the chat section, and we will make sure to address that in the Q&A section when we start that. But also you will have the opportunity to raise your hand in the Q&A section and unmute yourself and ask that in person. So you can do it in either way you feel more comfortable with. So let's start with today's webinar directly, where, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about this linkage between Sustainable Development Goals and lifecycle sustainability assessment. Exactly, we're going to talk about how to measure your decision's contribution to the Sustainable Development Goals using lifecycle sustainability assessments. So we're going to start with some introduction, a bit about the sustainability in general, and then we zoom in into the importance of Sustainable Development Goals. We're going to talk a bit quickly here about the methods of lifecycle sustainability assessment, introduce it a bit to you, and talk about the methodological approach that we developed to link Sustainable Development Goals with lifecycle sustainability assessment. We're going to go over a case study illustrating the application of this method to assess the sustainability performance of oil and gas industry in Canada in connection to Sustainable Development Goals. And we're going to end with some final remarks and open the Q&A section. So let's start with the importance of sustainability here. We know that the importance of sustainability has become increasingly important here to the public. And this is mainly because of this growing pressure to address the climate change problem and the necessity to reduce CO2 emissions. Recently, we have seen with the latest UN report of COP27, there is a confirmation that what we are doing right now is not enough to achieve the temperature goal of the Paris Agreement. And wide-ranging, large-scale, rapid, and systemic transformation is now essential to achieve this temperature goal of the Paris Agreement. So with all what's happening around us right now, there is an increased need to invest more in sustainability research and development, in sustainability assessment, and sustainability communication. Everything around us is confirming the urgency of our sustainable actions. Sustainable actions that ask for everyone to play their role in doing so. So all actors have roles to play when it comes to sustainable actions, when it comes to just and socially balanced transformation to achieve this sustainable future for everyone. With all of this, this is where it becomes important to talk about the Sustainable Development Goals. Those 17 SDGs that are considered as reference points to track and monitor progress to achieve sustainable development. And when we talk about these 17 SDGs, under these 17 SDGs, we have a list of targets, which is a total of 169 targets. Zooming into these SDGs, we know that they are mostly defined on government and policy level. But as we said, everyone has a role to play in order to achieve these SDGs, and industry has this role as well to play when it comes to achieving these SDGs. This role is not only based on the connection with SDG 9, which is related to industry, innovation, and infrastructure, but it goes beyond that to cover all other environmental, economic, and social SDGs. There are direct and indirect relationships with productivity, employment, income, poverty eradication, gender equality, contribution to sustainable economic growth, environmental protection, and all other SDGs. So the role of industry is not only related to SDG 9, but it goes beyond that to cover all other SDGs. And on the other side, achieving SDGs for industries goes back into advantages. By achieving SDGs by industry, it can create business value and jobs. It can create opportunities to better manage risks. It can strengthen their supply chains and secure the access to resources. So it provides also, on the way back, advantages for the industry. But how can we make sure that industry is really contributing to the SDGs, is going in the right path to achieve SDGs? This is the question that we always ask. And this is where it becomes important to talk about measurement. We cannot achieve and manage what we cannot measure. We have to know where we are at right now in order to build effective actions to go in the right pathway toward achieving and managing the Sustainable Development Goals. This is exactly what we're going to talk about deeper when we go to the other slides here in terms of measurement. But right now, you're going to see popping up at your side 2 pulse questions where we are asking you, have you measured or are you aware of your sustainability performance toward the SDGs? Yes or no. Sometimes we are not following a specific process in terms of measurement, but sometimes we are aware of our sustainability performance in a way or so. And the second question, we are asking you, what do you think is the main limitation to measure and monitor SDGs from your side? From whatever area you are working on, sometimes there is a limitation that you think it goes behind measuring and monitoring SDGs. It can be maybe existence of different methods and metrics. It can be the high amount of required data to process, or it can be lack of simple tools that exist around to measure, or maybe technical knowledge that you are missing in your team, or other reasons you may think about. And if you think about other reasons, it would be nice to share your thoughts in the chat section if you can. While we are waiting here for you to respond on these 2 pulse questions, to hear your thoughts and inputs about the measurement from your side. We know that our attendees are joining from different backgrounds today. It can be a project that you are working on, research, whatever area you are working on. There is a need to measure and know our sustainability performance toward the SDGs. And sometimes we don't follow, again, a specific process, but we are aware in a way about our contribution to the SDGs. So this is the first question. And the second question, what do you think is the main limitation when it comes to measurements? We know around that there are a lot of methods when it comes to measuring our contribution to the SDGs. So maybe this is the limitation that you think it's challenging to choose the right one, or it may be related to data or simple tools that probably don't exist, or probably you don't have the technical knowledge in your team, in your company, in your research group to do this measurement. It would be great to hear your thoughts and your inputs, and we will be sharing the results of these two questions with you in a minute here while we get a good percentage of responses so we can move forward. Okay, so we will be sharing the results of these two questions with you right now. And again, as I said, when we look around in terms of measurements, we have different methods and we have different metrics and indicators to measure and integrate the SDGs into our process. And this is maybe a main challenge when it comes to measurement here. When it comes to industry, mostly we communicate and we commit to the SDGs based on company-wide level. However, reaching the SDG goals and reaching the SDG targets does not depend only on the company-wide level. It depends also on the products and services that the company produces, that the company offers. And this is what is missing when it comes to measurement for companies. The commitment to SDGs also implies a change in the product development and the reporting. We are expecting companies to be able to use metrics that show if existing or new products contribute to the supporting of SDGs. So we should reach a point where we are assessing the performance of our product systems, of our technology systems, of our operation systems along their life cycle toward the SDGs. And this is exactly what is missing in existing frameworks. This life cycle perspective that should be followed when we assess the sustainability performance of these product systems. This holistic perspective that is needed when we assess as well the sustainability performance of our product systems is what is missing in our current frameworks. These two perspectives, the holistic and the life cycle perspective, would help us to avoid problem shifting and to avoid sub-optimization between the three dimensions of sustainability, between the stages of any product system, between the goals of sustainable development goals, and to manage possible trade-offs. And talking about holistic and life cycle perspective that's needed, as I mentioned, this is where it becomes important to talk about life cycle sustainability assessment. So right now we're going to introduce to you quickly the life cycle sustainability assessment method, but also we're going to talk about the methodological approach that we developed connecting LCSA with SDGs with Alejandro.
Thank you, Marwa. So what is a life cycle sustainability assessment? Life cycle sustainability assessments refers to the evaluation of all environmental, social, and economic and negative impacts, or also benefits, in decision-making progress towards a more sustainable products through their life cycle. It's a triple bottom life cycle perspective that combines the environmental LCA, the life cycle costing, and also the social life cycle assessment. And the LCA, the life cycle sustainability assessment covers the three dimensions of sustainability. In order to help the whole picture, it's vital to extend our current life cycle thinking to encompass all the three pillars of sustainability. So we cover the environmental with life cycle assessment, the social with social cycle assessment, while life cycle costing is covering the economy dimension of sustainability. But what is the main challenge regarding life cycle sustainability assessment? We know that right now it's possible to use this tool to assess the environmental and social impacts at product level. But when we want to use the LCSA-based metrics for SDGs, it's becoming a new challenge. So we are proposing here the combination of the LCSA, environmental, social, and economic dimension covered by life cycle sustainability assessment with the SDGs. So the question we want to answer is how to measure your decision contribution to SDGs, but in this case using the life cycle sustainability assessment. So we are proposing a methodology that it's based on 5 different steps. I am not going to in details in this webinar, but if you want, we can provide the link to our paper, to our research paper. But the main methodology is based on a general literature review. Then we are mapping the SDGs with specific words in this literature review. And there's the most important step is the assessment of degree connection based on the literature. In this case, we are connecting in 2 different ways: direct connections that are linked to each other, and also indirect connections for SDGs and LCSA categories. And finally, we are also creating some synergies between different SDGs and different gaps identification. And we are covering different impact categories. For environmental, we are covering around 9 environmental impact categories. We are using, in this case, the Tracy 2.1 methodology. We are covering, for example, climate change, acidification, eutrophication, and so on. For the economic dimension, we are covering, at this point, 4 different cost categories: investment, operation and maintenance costs, end-of-life costs, and revenue. And while in social life cycle assessment, we are covering more than 30 social subcategories divided in 5 different stakeholders. That it can be workers, local community, children, society, and value chain actors. And this is an example of what we are proposing. We are connecting all 17 SDGs with all LCSA subcategories. In this case, this is an illustration of different LCSA categories. For example, human health. Human health, we are connecting in a direct way with SDG number 3, but also with different SDGs in an indirect way. For example, SDG number 1 or 2, 4 or 5, etc. In global warming, we are also making connection. The direct connection is related to climate action, SDG number 13, but also we can see another indirect connection for different SDGs. Water use is the same. We are connecting to SDG number 6. While revenue, for example, in the economic dimension, we are connected with SDG number 8. This is an only illustration. We have the complete list of all LCSA categories and all the connection with the 17 SDGs for direct and indirect connections. This is another example of what we are creating. We are creating, for example, different trade-offs and creating different synergies between SDGs. In this case, we have 2 examples, one related to health issues and global warming. For example, health issues is connected with SDG number 3, but it also creating different synergies with SDG number 2 or SDG number 5 or SDG number 8. While, for example, in global warming, we know that it's a global issue, and it not only causes extreme weather events, but also can disrupt ecosystem and human livelihoods, particularly of vulnerable groups such as children, women, and elderly. In this case, for example, resources of food or water become too scarce. And this specific SDG climate actions has been considered as a critical to achieve sustainable development, and several SDG can be related to these efforts. In this methodology, we are connecting linkages in 2 different ways. We can contribute as much as possible to all 17 SDGs, but we can also contribute to a list of specific SDGs. So these are the 2 different ways we can use this methodology. And in this slide, you can see that the different connection and the different SDGs covered by each of the LCSA categories. This is only an illustration. These are not the complete list, but you can see that, for example, technology development is covering around 15 SDGs, while, for example, in the second position, public commitment to sustainability issues is covering also 15, and education provided in local community also 15. Some others related, for example, in environmental dimension, global warming is covering around 12 SDGs, and land use transformation 10, equal opportunities and discrimination is a social topics around 10 SDGs.
So while what Alejandro mentioned, we can contribute as much as possible to all 17 SDGs by picking the LCSA categories that can contribute or that can help us to measure our sustainability performance or contribute as much as possible to the highest number of SDGs. We can also use this methodology to assess our sustainability performance toward a prioritized list that we have already picked of SDGs. And this is what we're going to show you as an illustration here for the application of our methodological approach. So here we are showing you an illustrative case study using the oil and gas industry in Canada. The oil and gas industry in Canada has announced an SDG roadmap prioritizing 11 SDGs where the sector has the most influence to respond to societal needs. The 11 SDGs, you are seeing them here. And what we are doing here is we are assessing the sustainability performance of the oil and gas industry using LCSA categories towards the prioritized list of 11 SDGs for the sector. By applying our methodological approach, we were able to identify the LCSA categories that you are seeing here in connection to the prioritized list of SDGs. So the 11 SDGs that have been prioritized by the oil and gas sector. So here, these LCSA categories can help the industry to measure the sustainability performance toward the prioritized list of SDGs. So we can use these LCSA categories to measure our sustainability performance toward the list of prioritized SDGs. And this is what we have done in this case study. What you are seeing in front of you right now is the part of the social results. So starting with the social results first, where you are seeing a part of the social areas results for the oil and gas industry with direct and indirect connection with the prioritized list of 11 SDGs. Here, I should mention that we are using generic data only for illustration purpose of this case study. Some social areas are not included here due to non-availability of generic data. And in terms of the social performance results that you are seeing here, we are following a method that has been developed by our research team previously with a previous publication, where it resulted in a level of performance, as you can see here, and the scoring for each social area. If you are interested in this method, we are happy to share the paper with you later on. But what I want to say also here is that this doesn't give us the complete picture of what social areas that need improvements for the oil and gas sector still. So going outside the list of prioritized SDGs by the oil and gas sector, we are still able to see some additional social areas that need improvements. For example, fair salary was one of these social areas that was outside the list of 11 prioritized SDGs that needed improvements for the oil and gas sector. So covering all 17 SDGs would give us for sure the complete picture of what needed improvements for the sector or for the product system that we are dealing with. Moving here to the environmental results that you are seeing here, you can see again a part of the environmental results with direct and indirect connection with the 11 prioritized SDGs of the oil and gas sector. In terms of the environmental performance results, for sure as well, again, we are using generic data for this illustrative case study. And I should say that there are some assumptions that we had to follow in order to produce as well these assessment results. For example, on the environmental side, we were supposed to assume the consideration of the major 3 products when it comes to the oil and gas industry. Moving to the economic results, which is a small part that you are seeing here. And again, this is part of the results where we are seeing only one economic category here at this site. And again, I should mention that there was some lack of generic data and some lack of connection with the prioritized list of SDGs by the oil and gas sector. So we were able to produce these assessment results on the 3 dimensions using the LCSA categories, with providing the direct and indirect connection with a prioritized list of SDGs for the oil and gas sector. Now we have to use this assessment to zoom in and see the performance that we are doing in the different LCSA categories and propose some actions to improve the performance of the oil and gas industry toward this list of prioritized SDGs. And this is what we have done here in this slide. So in this slide, you can see a part of some recommended generic actions that we were able to propose for some to improve some LCSA categories that we are seeing here, and in order to contribute to some of the prioritized list of SDGs for the oil and gas sector. These actions can go from using cleaner technologies, using renewable energy, maybe increasing the contribution of the sector toward economic development or towards GDP. It can go to increasing the number of certified environmental management systems. It really depends. The actions would depend on which LCSA category we are talking about and what is the performance that we were able to have from the assessment results that we did using LCSA assessment or LCSA categories here. So this is the whole purpose, is to provide recommended actions and know what needs to be done to improve our contribution to the SDGs using, again, this LCSA assessment that is based on life cycle perspective and holistic perspective. For sure, this sustainability reporting or sustainability performance assessment is not something new. We have seen different initiatives around us for companies to report on their sustainability performance. So to call a few of them here: United Nations Global Compact, Science-Based Targets, Future Fit Business, Global Reporting Initiative, and more others more than this. And what we are talking about as methodological approach connecting LCSA with SDGs today is not something to add to these, but this life cycle perspective in the assessment would help companies to report more transparently and more effectively in a transparent way, improving their sustainability performance reporting within even these existing initiatives. Following this systematic and life cycle perspective toward the contribution to SDGs in our methodological approach would improve and enhance the quality, the transparency, the accuracy of this reporting of sustainability performance. But for sure, what is challenging here at this time, at this approach or applying this approach, would be to make it maybe more simple, easy to use by everyone, and maybe making it more automated for anyone to see this results of connection between LCSA and SDGs. And this is what we are doing in our TOSA software tool as part of our startup. I mentioned a bit about our startup here, but what I want to highlight here is this specific automated connection between LCSA and SDGs that we are providing in our TOSA software tool. Our TOSA Sustainability and ESG software tool evaluates the whole sustainability performance of any product, service, and corporate operations based again on the lifecycle sustainability assessment method. Our main point here in our TOSA software tool is this combination of power and simplicity. Power and simplicity by providing a guidance for anyone step by step in the process in order to produce the LCSA results in an easy way, in a simple way, with an automated connection with SDGs. So in a few buttons, we are able to see the connection between the LCSA assessment results and the SDGs, following the methodological approach that we have already provided in our previous publication. So what you are seeing here are some examples of some results that we can see using our TOSA software tool. And here I should say that these are maybe some examples at this point because we are still in the development process of our TOSA software tool. So what we are able to see is here, for example, how the environmental results are connected with the SDGs, and this is part of what results we are able to see with direct and indirect connection. Here you are able to see the social results in connection to the SDGs in an aggregated way, but also zooming into each SDG and see the detailed results of how each social area is doing in connection to each SDG while providing direct and indirect connection. So the results can be provided in different ways, from the most aggregated to the most detailed way, but also by providing this connection with the SDGs in an automated way, in a simple way. And before we go into the end of our presentation here, just some final remarks about the importance of this approach by following the life cycle thinking and systematic thinking in terms of this connection between the life cycle sustainability assessment and SDGs. We should mention that this approach that we showed you today it goes beyond businesses into any life cycle decision that you may think about it by any actor, by academics, by technology developers, by policymakers. Any life cycle decision we may think about, we are interested always to report on the sustainability performance of this life cycle decision of any product system using LCSA in connection to SDGs. By following this approach, we are able to highlight effective improvements needed in the whole life cycle of any life cycle decision of any product, of any technology system, to achieve the specific SDGs and to achieve the whole aim here, a sustainable future for everyone. So everyone can play their role in terms of achieving this sustainable future. And following this approach based on life cycle perspective and holistic perspective, we are able to improve the transparency, the consistency, and reliability of the company evolution toward the global SDG agenda in existing initiatives even that we have in terms of sustainability reporting. At this point, you're going to see another poll question popping up at your side, where we are asking you your input based on the method that we showed you linking LCSA with SDGs. We would like to hear your thoughts. What would be the challenge to apply LCSA to measure your decision's contribution to the SDGs? We know that we showed you the method where we were able to link this LCSA method with the SDGs, and sometimes we know that there are some challenges when it comes to the application of this connection. It can be a lack of data. It can be a lack of simple tools to apply LCSA. We know when it comes to LCSA within its 3 tools, it might be complicated, the process. It might be that you're missing, again, the technical knowledge in your team to apply this connection. Or it can be maybe the difficulty to prioritize topics, the SDG goals, which one is more important to you, or to your company, to your research group. It can be a lack of relevant standardization when it comes to application of this process, or it may be other reasons that you may think about. And if you thought about any other reason that doesn't exist here, it would be nice to share your thoughts in the chat section, and we would be happy to see that and read that after. It would be nice to hear your thoughts on the different challenges that you may confront if you think at any time to apply this connection between LCSA and SDGs. And after just 2 minutes, we'll be able to open the Q&A section and answer any question you may have. As you are responding here to this question, it can be a combination of different challenges that you may think about even when it comes to the application of this process. And again, whatever area you are working on, sometimes the application of this process might be associated with some challenges. Okay, so I think with this, we're gonna as well share the results with you in 1 minute here. before I move to the next slide. So if you are responding to this question, it would be nice to have your thoughts. And we will be sharing the results with you again in 1 minute here and see the different percentages that you guys submitted to the different options here. We know when it comes again to the application of LCSA, it's a bit challenging process. So it might be that you thought this is what is the challenge for you to apply this connection or this methodological approach. Okay, so at this point, we will be sharing the results with you for this question. And before I open the Q&A section, I would like to announce or let everyone know, if you are interested, that our upcoming webinar is going to cover the inclusion and the importance of social aspects in sustainable decision making. And this will be on March 8th, 2023. And we will be sharing the link of this webinar to register for this webinar with you in a follow-up email if anyone is interested to attend our upcoming webinar. Also, an upcoming course that we are planning for in our startup. This is a course on as an introduction to life cycle sustainability assessment, and it will be an online course on the 3 tools of life cycle sustainability assessment, covering the whole process of LCSA. There is no specific date still for this course, but we are planning for this for spring 2023. If you are interested in this course, I would like to encourage everyone to visit our website. If you are interested in any of our webinars, to see our recorded webinars, if you are interested in our software tool, in our services, I would encourage you to visit our website, or as well to follow us on LinkedIn or to contact us. We would be happy to chat further if you have any question as well on specific services that we have for our startup. And at this point, I would like to encourage everyone, if you guys have any question, please raise your hand and I will be checking as well the chat section.